After almost 60 years of strong bipartisan support, Congress has cut all federal funding for public media, stripping away a critical pillar of support for local stations like ours. At Vermont Public, we'll lose at least $2 million this year. If all our sustaining members increase their gift by $7 per month, we'll close that gap for good. Increase your gift today and help close the gap at vermontpublic.org/update.
From Vermont Public, this is The Frequency. I'm Mitch Wertlieb. It's Tuesday, September 16th, and here are today's headlines. The Green Mountain Care Board is making deep cuts to the University of Vermont Medical Center's proposed budget for next year. Board Chair Owen Foster said last Friday the hospital's budget came in disturbingly high at a time when the state's healthcare system is in crisis.
We have seen unrelenting expense growth, dramatically declining quality across the University of Vermont Health Network hospitals, and a growing gap in compensation between the lowest paid patient-facing employees and network executives.
The board ordered the hospital to make a slight reduction in the money it collects from patients and to reduce the amount of money it collects from commercial insurers by 16%. Regulators said UVM has been using Vermont healthcare dollars to make up for losses at the New York hospitals in its network. They also took money out of its budget to compensate for that transfer of funds. The Vermont State Employees Union is pushing Governor Phil Scott's administration to reconsider its return to work order. Scott has ordered most state employees to work at their offices at least 3 days a week starting in December. Steve Howard is the union's executive director, and this week on Vermont Edition, he noted the state government has hundreds of vacant positions right now.
With the ability to work remotely, we are able to both retain and attract employees. So our hope is that the administration will really reconsider this proposal and will work instead collaboratively with us to meet the needs of the taxpayer, but also to really meet the needs of the workforce that is so critical.
Secretary of Administration Sarah Clark said in a memo to state workers that accommodations to the order will be available, but they must be deemed, quote, reasonable and appropriate. The iconic geodesic dome on Montreal's Ile Sainte-Hélène will close down for 2 months for renovations. The biosphere is part of Montreal's museum scene that includes the Biodome, Planetarium, and Botanical Gardens. The network of museums is Canada's largest natural science complex. Work on the Biosphere Dome will modernize its facilities and visitor experience. The upgrades started yesterday, and they will last through mid-November. And Vermont's high schoolers will have new graduation requirements in a couple of years. The Agency of Education is developing new statewide standards that students will need to meet in order to earn a diploma. Education Secretary Zoe Saunders says it's part of a major education reform law enacted in June.
At the end of the day, this work is about preparing every student for success in college, careers, and life.
Authority over graduation requirements used to lie with individual school districts, but a new law transfers that power to the state. The new standards are scheduled to take effect in the 2027-2028 school year. Coming up, the Bicknell's thrush is a plucky but vulnerable songbird that makes a harrowing journey to raise its young at the top of some of New England's tallest peaks, including Mount Mansfield. Vermont Public's Abigail Giles tells us more about the tiny bird and how scientists are trying to preserve it. That's after this.
Thanks for listening to The Frequency, where support comes from SRH Law, believing that values and mission still matter. When you need good counsel for your values-based work, whether it's securing our energy future, building affordable and sustainable communities, or advancing a values-led economy, they're here to help you make a difference. SRHlaw.com. Making a difference is our practice.
As the climate warms, scientists are racing to save a tiny songbird that travels thousands of miles to raise its young on Vermont's tallest alpine summits. Vermont Public's Abigail Giles spent a night on Mount Mansfield to learn more.
So it's kind of this down-slurred veer note, and if you even give like a poor impression of a whistle, sometimes you'll get them to come in a little closer and check you out.
That, says biologist Nathaniel Sharp, is the sound of a Bicknell's thrush. It might sound familiar if you've been on a high peak in the Northeast near dawn or dusk.
And then this is the song, which is this beautiful, just this sort of cascade of these whistles and buzzes and fluty notes.
It's sunset, and Nathaniel is here on Mount Mansfield with a crew of volunteers to catch these little gray songbirds that fit in the palm of your hand. To do this, they have to string long nets up along the maze of hiking trails that wrap around the ridge.
All right, Emily, you can start unfurling that one if you want.
After the sun goes down, they hike around to find out what birds they caught. Tonight, they're hoping to find Bicknell's thrush that are wearing teeny backpacks outfitted with GPS trackers.
Yeah, Bicknell's thrush, there's nothing like hearing that up on the mountain, so hopefully we got lucky and hear some late singing males tonight.
Chris Rimmer has been studying the birds and leading this project for the last 30 years or so.
Bicknell's thrush are declining at about 4% per year, which is a pretty steep rate of decline and not a sustainable rate of decline.
Bicknell's thrush spend their lives flying between two kinds of islands. They spend summers on tall alpine summits in southern Quebec and New England, like Mount Mansfield, and spend winters in the cloud forests of the Dominican Republic.
What I hope is that 50 or 100 years from now, you're going to be able to stand here on Mount Mansfield and still be able to hear the swirling ethereal song of a Bicknell's thrush, frankly. And is that realistic? I don't know.
Chris says, for reasons scientists don't yet understand, there are a lot more male birds than females. The theory is that the females aren't surviving the winters. The goal with these tiny backpacks is to find out where the birds are overwintering in the Dominican Republic, so the Vermont scientists can work with colleagues in the Caribbean to protect those forests from being cut down. But the thrushes also face some longer-term challenges here in New England.
These montane forests, as we call them, the dominant tree here is the balsam fir, which is right above me here.
Bicknell's thrush nest in balsam fir trees, which are very sensitive to hot summer weather. Research has shown that for every degree Celsius of warming, the tree's range could move up in elevation by about 500 feet.
And there's already evidence of this, empirical evidence that the hardwood forests are beginning to encroach upslope.
And the mountains here in the Northeast are only so tall. 2 degrees Celsius of warming would just about eliminate the birds' habitat across the region. Back on the trails, the sun is setting, and in the gloaming, Brendan Collins, a volunteer, gently removes a bird from a net.
This is a juvenile Bicknell's, right? So this little guy hatched out probably, I would guess, 4 weeks ago or so. We're going to put a band on him. I got the band on him there. Early September, it'll look up one night and decide that it's time to go down to the Caribbean.
The researchers can only hope this little bird survives the test of its first winter. In the meantime, they're racing to figure out where it's going so scientists there can protect it. For Vermont Public, I'm Abigail Giles.
Thanks for listening to The Frequency today. We had additional reporting from Howard Weistisman, Michaela Lafrac, Mary Engish, and Peter Hirschfeld. Today's episode was edited by Stephanie Colombini, and our music is by Blue Dot Sessions. I'm Mitch Wertlieb. Mary Engish will be filling in on frequency duties for a few days, but I'll talk to you next week.